Hello friends, and welcome to my channel. If we haven't met before, my name is Haley and I like to read books and talk about them online. And welcome to today's reading vlog. I am very excited about this one. As I'm sure you saw in the title, in this video I am going to be reading books that are being adapted into movies in 2026. I was thinking about this in December and I realized there are a lot of books being adapted into movies in 2026, so I thought it would be so fun for a reading vlog to read some of the books that are being turned into movies. I have 3 books picked out for this video and 2 out of 3 of them are from genres that I don't typically read, so this is very exciting. I will go through them in the order the movies are being released this year. So the first book is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and by the time this vlog is posted, the movie for this one will already be released. It is coming out in early February, and if you have seen any of my other videos, you will know that I have been talking about this book a lot lately. I have been saying that I really want to read more classic books, and Wuthering Heights is at the top of my list. I believe this falls into the genre of a gothic classic, which really intrigues me because I love a gothic book. From what I think I know of this book, it is not a romantic story. There is betrayal and vengeance, and I'm just really excited to dive into this and see what it's all about. The next book I will be reading is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi novel, which is another genre I don't typically read, and I believe the movie for this one is coming out in March. I see people recommending this book to everyone, regardless of what type of books they typically read, so I really want to give this one a try and then obviously watch the movie after. The thing about me though is I do not love space movies or space-related things. It just really freaks me out, so I'm not sure how I'll feel about this one, but I'm still gonna try anyways and step outside of my comfort zone, and hopefully I will be pleasantly surprised. I have also seen a lot of people recommend the audiobook for this one, and apparently it's amazing, so I am planning to immersive read this one with the audiobook. Okay, and the last book I'll be reading is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This one doesn't come out until November, I think, so at the very end of the year, but I have been meaning to read this book since it released last year, so I really wanted to pick this one up, and I thought this would be the perfect time to do it. I honestly want to read all of the Hunger Games books this year because I've never actually read them. I'm a diehard fan of the movies, but I never read the books, so I would really like to do that this year, but I am planning to start with this one. I am really excited to read about Haymitch's story and his Hunger Games, so I have very high hopes for this one. I am very excited, and obviously, even though I haven't even read this yet, I am equally as excited for the movie. I just know it's gonna be amazing, so I am very excited to finally be picking up this book and vlogging the experience. So that is the plan for this reading vlog. I am very excited. I have not yet decided which book I'm going to start with. It is still very early in the day and I don't plan on reading until a bit later tonight, but I'm thinking I will either start with Wuthering Heights or Sunrise on the Reaping. But once I've started reading one of these books, I will definitely check back in with you guys and give you some updates. Hello friends, as you saw, I decided to start reading Wuthering Heights. This is the book we're kicking off this reading vlog with. I honestly am so excited that I'm finally reading this book. It has been a long time coming, but I will say it has definitely taken me a minute to get used to this and the writing and the dialogue. Classic literature is obviously very different from modern writing and modern books, and this is actually the first official classic book I have ever read, aside from Shakespeare in high school, and honestly I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm actually really enjoying the challenge of reading this. Like I said, it definitely took me a minute to adjust and wrap my head around everything, around the writing. The way this is written and the way the story is being told can definitely be a little bit confusing. I definitely googled a few things just at the start of this book to make sure I was fully understanding what I was reading. This book actually does have a family tree in it though, which is nice to reference because there are some characters with the same names in here, which makes it even more confusing. So from what I understand so far, basically we are following 2 different families from 2 different estates. We have Wuthering Heights, which is kind of the more wild and rugged estate, and then we have Thrushcross Grange, which is the more refined and proper estate. And we are kind of just learning about the history and the relationship between these 2 houses and the people inside them. And this story is mainly being told from the perspective of Nellie, who is a servant and witnessed the events between these 2 houses, and she is recounting these events to Mr. Lockwood, who is the new tenant at Thrushcross Grange. So we also get his perspective at points throughout the story, which again can add to the confusion a little bit. But so far, the more I'm reading, the easier it is to understand. I am 120 pages in, so I've only read about this much so far. There is still a lot to discover and uncover in this story. Something I have heard people say about this book is that both of our narrators are unreliable, which does make sense as they are the outsiders recounting these events. So I feel like as I read on, I'm gonna have to kind of piece things together myself myself, and I won't necessarily know who to trust, what to believe. I feel like I just need to do some more reading so I can give you guys some better updates. I feel like that was pretty basic and I'm just trying to get across my understanding so far. I have a feeling this is going to be a very toxic and complicated story, but I'm really excited to see where things go. I'm definitely enjoying it so far, and obviously I've never read anything like this before, so I'm really just enjoying this experience, trying to take it slow and take all of this information in. So yeah, I am enjoying this so far, and this is just my little update for now. I'm gonna sit down and read some more of this and hopefully get an even better understanding, and then I will come back to you guys with some more updates. Hello friends, I finished reading the first book of this vlog last night. I finished Wuthering Heights and I absolutely loved this book. This is going to be a hard one to talk about because so much happens in this book and there is so much to unpack, and I feel like my thoughts, my review just won't do this justice, but I'm gonna try my best. I feel like when I was first trying to explain this book to you guys, it was a bit of a jumbled mess. I was still trying to figure out what was going on myself, but I feel like I have a much better understanding now. Although I feel like with a book like this, there is so much more that I will pick up on when I do rereads of it, and this is absolutely a book that I want to reread in the future. And as I talk about my thoughts here, I'm gonna try to keep my explanation of the plot very brief. I went into this book not knowing very much about it, and I feel like that was a great experience. It just took me on a journey. So for anyone who hasn't read this book yet, I want you to be able to have that same experience. Basically, this novel focuses on the relationship between Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff. The Earnshaw family lives at Wuthering Heights. Mr. Earnshaw brings home an orphan boy, who is Heathcliff, and he then grows up at Wuthering Heights alongside Earnshaw's daughter, who is Catherine. So Catherine and Heathcliff grow up together, and they form a very deep but destructive bond. But like I said before, we are following two families in this story, the Earnshaws, who are at Wuthering Heights, and the Lintons, who are at Thrushcross Grange. And this story really dives deep into the complex relationships between these two intertwined families, and at its core, this book is exploring love, obsession, jealousy, revenge, and ultimately how these emotions can shape and destroy people's lives. I am honestly blown away by the fact that this was published in the 1800s. This book truly feels so ahead of its time. I feel like a lot of the themes that are explored in this book were not openly talked about at this time, which could definitely make this a controversial novel, and I have since learned that the Bronte sisters actually didn't publish under their names at that time, so that is also very interesting. But again, I am just blown away by this book. I truly think it is a literary masterpiece. This book actually deeply explores violence and abuse of power, and it really is a story that is fueled by betrayal, obsession, and a yearning for revenge, which ends up having a lasting influence that is passed down through generations, and we see that play out in this story, and I thought that was so interesting. In some ways, this is a love story, but it is not a romantic love story. After finishing this book, I watched the trailer for the movie that is coming out in February, and it literally says in the trailer, the greatest love story of all time, and I do not think that is true. I think this is a love story that could have been beautiful, but never was. The characters in this book are extremely chaotic and insufferable, but that is something I actually really loved about this. I loved peeling back the layers of these characters to really understand what shaped them, and I mentioned before that this story is told through the perspective of Nellie, who is the housekeeper at Wuthering Heights, and I thought that was a very compelling way to narrate the story. It is essentially a story within a story, and because of that, we can't fully trust everything that Nellie is telling us, and you know, that left me with a lingering sense of doubt about everything she was saying, but at the same time, I feel like that adds depth to the story. Overall, I just thought this story was absolutely brilliant. Like I said before, it took me a minute to adjust to the writing style in here, but once I did, I really appreciated it. I thought this was so beautifully written, but I will say we do have one character in here who was honestly speaking gibberish to me. That is one part of this book I could not interpret. When this one character was speaking, his dialogue truly was like gibberish. But aside from that, I was actually really able to get into the writing in this book, and I could not put it down. This really did end up captivating me. This was just such a thought-provoking read. The characterization is phenomenal, the writing is vivid, and this book really has left a lasting impression on me. I will be thinking about this for a very long time. I will absolutely be rereading this in the future. Like I said, there is just so much to unpack here, but it is truly brilliant. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. This is a book I will highly recommend. I wouldn't say that this is a beginner classic. I would classify this more as an intermediate. There are some confusing aspects in this book, and I do believe I mentioned this earlier. We are seeing generations of characters characters in this story, and a lot of the time they have the same name, so that part can get a little confusing. And I also mentioned that Nellie narrates this story, but for some brief moments we are also in the perspective of Mr. Lockwood, who she is telling this story to. So there's little things like that that can just get a little bit confusing, but once I started reading and I was really locked in, I was definitely able to differentiate things better. Really, it just takes some getting used to, like anything new and unfamiliar. So those are my final thoughts on this book. I absolutely loved it, and I am so glad I finally read this. Okay, and now I will give you guys a little update on the book I am reading next. I decided on Project Hail Mary, and I have actually started this one. I am a few chapters in now, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I was feeling skeptical about this one. I have never read a sci-fi book before. I am definitely not a math, science, space girly at all, and from what I can tell from these first few chapters, math and sciencey things and terms are a really big part of the narrative in here. However, that has really not taken away from my enjoyment at all. Some of those things do go over my head, but it really hasn't been an issue at all so far. And I'm just realizing I haven't even talked about what this book is about yet. I can't remember if I did it earlier in the video, so I'll just tell you briefly what this one is about. We are following our male main character, and this book starts off with him waking up in space and not knowing where he is, not knowing how he got there, not even remembering his name. He is actually on a desperate mission to save Earth, and it says that right here at the top, so it is not a spoiler. And as he wakes up, he is kind of just trying to remember details about his life, why he's here, and we are slowly getting that information. Things are slowly starting to come back to him, and so far this book is actually so funny. Our main character is hilarious, and I feel like that is what makes this book so enjoyable, even though we have a lot of sciencey and mathematic things in here that for someone like me finds a little bit boring. The humor that is woven in just makes this so enjoyable, and that has been my experience in these first 4 or 5 chapters. We immediately see our main character's personality. It is so great. He is really optimistic despite waking up without any memory, and he's kind of just unintentionally cracking jokes, and I really love that about him. So this has been a very promising start. I'm really excited to keep reading this one. I actually think I'm really going to enjoy this book, and I cannot wait to see where this story will go. So that is my little update on this one so far. I'm gonna go read some more of this book right now. I am in the mood to just binge read, so I might just do that, and I will be back when I have some more updates for you guys. Hello friends, I am back, and I have finished Project Hail Mary. After my last check-in with you guys where I said I started this book, I actually sat down after that and I binged this. I was so pleasantly surprised with this book. I am shocked at how much I enjoyed this book. This was actually so good. I was really nervous with this being a space book because I've already said I do not like space, and I don't really enjoy math or science, but none of that really mattered with this book, and I still loved it despite those things. This was just a wonderful reading experience. I think I'm gonna give this book either 4.5 stars or maybe even 5 stars. I'm gonna sit on it for a few more days, but by the time I edit this video, I will have my final rating, so I will put it up here once I have decided. But either way, a super high rating for this book because it was just that good. The plot of this book is fantastic, and it is actually so gripping, which you may not think it would be considering our main character wakes up alone in space, but it still managed to be so gripping and so entertaining. The plot is also hilarious at times. The humor in this book was so good. The main character is genuinely so funny, and I was laughing so much throughout this story. And as our main character slowly remembers things about his past and how he ended up in space, we do get flashbacks and memories of his past, but there is still a lot of mystery surrounding his circumstances, and the way things were slowly revealed throughout this story was just perfect. Like I said before, I am not a math or science girly, and those elements are a very prominent part of this plot, so I will say some of that did go over my head a little bit, but it honestly didn't take away from my reading experience at all. Even with all of the sciencey, space lingo, and the mathematics, I was still completely immersed in the story, and I could not put this book down. So if you're like me and you're not into those things either, I still urge you to give this book a try. And while this book was a very humorous read, it was also such an emotionally impactful and heartwarming read. There is a friendship that forms in this book, and it was just so wholesome, and honestly one of my favorite parts of this whole story. I just really loved that this book was a mix of the space elements, the humorous elements, and the emotional elements. All of that together just made for such a great and enjoyable read. And and I did an immersive read of this book. I read the physical copy while listening to the audiobook, and that was a fantastic experience. I highly recommend listening to the audiobook, immersive reading. I thought the audiobook was amazing and it really brought this story to life. I also just listened to the audiobook a little bit when I was getting ready or doing some tasks, which I don't usually do because sometimes I find my mind can wander and I realize, oh, I'm not actually listening to what's playing right now. But that didn't happen with this book. I listened to it while I was doing my makeup and I was still completely engrossed in the story, and that just really goes to show how great not only the story but the audiobook was as well. So yeah, I definitely recommend the audiobook. It was amazing and it really brought this story to life. I'm just so happy that I gave this book a try. I gave sci-fi a try and I had a really great experience. This is one of those books that I will be recommending to everyone, even if you're not a sci-fi reader, even if you don't like space or math or science like me. I honestly think this is a book that everyone can enjoy. And with that being said, I think this book is also just a great introduction into the sci-fi genre if you are new to it. It is just a very entertaining and enjoyable read without feeling overwhelming. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. I really loved this. I also immediately watched the trailer for the movie after finishing this book, and oh my god, it looks amazing. I think this will be such a fantastic adaptation and I cannot wait to watch the movie when it comes out in March. And again, that is crazy because I do not like watching space movies, so the fact that I enjoyed this so much and I'm so excited for the movie is huge. I am just so glad I tried something different. And yeah, the trailer for the movie honestly gave me chills. I am so excited. Okay, so book number 2 was also a success. 2 books being turned into movies this year that I absolutely loved. And now we are moving on to book number 3, which is obviously Sunrise on the Reaping. This one is a 5-star prediction for me. I love The Hunger Games. I am so excited to read Haymitch's story. This has been a highly anticipated read since it was released, and I am ready to dive in. I have not yet started this one, so I don't have too much to say yet. Obviously, this book is focusing on Haymitch's Hunger Games, which happens long before Katniss's Hunger Games, and during Katniss's Hunger Games, Haymitch was her mentor, so that is how we met Haymitch. But yeah, I am just so ready to dive into this book, so that is my short little update for this. I'm about to start it. I am ready for some emotional devastation because I have just seen so many people crying while they read this book, so I am prepared to shed many tears while I read this book. So I'm gonna go start this one right now and I will be back a little later with some updates. Hey guys, popping in for a very quick Sunrise on the Reaping update. I am exactly 50% of the way through this book and I'm absolutely loving it so far. I am just really loving getting Haymitch's backstory, even though this has been quite emotional so far, like right from the beginning. I love Haymitch. I feel like he is a very well written character, and so far there's people who really have it out for him in this book, and I hate that. I hate that it's so much more of a struggle for him because of this, and unfortunately I feel like we've only scratched the surface and there is a lot more emotional damage to come. I don't want that to be the case, but I can feel it coming, so I'm a little nervous. Where I'm at the 50% mark in this book, his Hunger Games have not even started yet. Obviously, if you've read or watched the Hunger Games, you know there is a lot that happens before the actual Hunger Games. They have to show off their skills, try to get sponsors, do the big interviews in front of the audience, and all of that is what I have seen so far up to this point. I'm excited, but also very nervous to actually get to the Hunger Games. But so far, this has been great. This is so bingeable. I really love Suzanne Collins' writing. This is my first experience with her writing. I think I mentioned it before, but I have never actually read any of the Hunger Games books, so this is the first book I'm reading by her, and I have nothing but great things to say so far. Part of me thinks I should have read all of the Hunger Games books before I read this one. I have seen a lot of people online recommend reading them in publication order, so the original first 3 Hunger Games books, then the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then Sunrise on the Reaping. And I'm actually buddy reading this one with my friend Lucy right now, and she has already read the other 4 books, and she has been picking up on some subtle connections that obviously I am not picking up on because I haven't read the other books, so that's a shame, but I do plan to go back and read them after, and I am very excited to do that. But regardless, I'm loving this book, I'm having a great time reading it, and I can't wait to continue reading it tonight, so I will check back in with you guys when I have some more updates. Hello friends, it has been a couple days since you saw me finish Sunrise on the Reaping. I think it is more accurate to say that I did not finish this book, it definitely finished me. This was an emotional and devastating read. I knew it would be, but I absolutely loved it. I think this book is perfect. I am giving this book 5 stars. Even though this is my first experience with Suzanne Collins' writing and any of her books, I just knew in my soul that I was going to love this book, and I did. I will forever and always be a Hunger Games girl, and after finishing this, I desperately want to read the original trilogy and The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. I feel like I did a bit of a disservice to myself by not reading the original books first. I feel like there was a lot of parallels to those original books in this one, and just little things and little connections that I probably would have picked up on if I had read those books first. But I have watched the Hunger Games movies more times than I can count, so there are still some connections that I feel like I picked up on just with my knowledge from the movies, and I really love Haymitch in the movies, so I was very excited to get his backstory in this book. And let me just say, this book and Haymitch's backstory ripped my heart out and stomped on it. Haymitch truly deserves the world. I love him even more now after reading this book. Haymitch is such a complex character, and getting his backstory and learning more about him deepened not only my love, but my heartbreak for him. He's intelligent, observant, perceptive, and he has a huge capacity to love, and we really see that in this book. Discovering who he was before all of this trauma he goes through made everything that comes after hurt so much more. He is truly an unsung hero, and he did not deserve everything that he went through in this book. My heart is just continually breaking every time I think about it, every time I try to talk about it. His story is just so tragic. But despite the devastating nature of this story, I honestly could not stop turning the pages. I really got lost in this story and Suzanne's writing. And like I said before, the parallels not only to the original series, but also to the world we live in today make this story feel painfully relevant and incredibly powerful. Themes like propaganda and political control are a huge part of the narrative in this story, and I feel like this book provides some crucial context about the rebellion and how far back that really goes, how the seeds have been planted, and Haymitch's character really is a crucial part of all of that. I also fell in love with a lot of the side characters in this book, even knowing what their fates would be, and honestly every loss in this book was like a sucker punch. But overall, I just thought this was such an engaging, heartbreaking, and powerful story, and it just adds so much emotional depth to Haymitch's character. This is a book that will haunt me for a very long time, and I just know that the movie is going to absolutely destroy me. I have finally watched the trailer and it gave me chills. Honestly, after every single book I read in this vlog, I watched the trailers for the very first time, and every single trailer gave me chills. I'm just so excited for all of these adaptations now, even more so than I was before. I'm so happy that I did this reading vlog. This was so much fun, and I love getting to read the books before the movie actually comes out. And the craziest part about this vlog is all of these books were 5 stars. This was unexpectedly a 5-star across the board reading vlog, and I am so happy about that. All of these books are so different. I stepped outside of my comfort zone with a couple of them, but they all ended up being such an incredible experience. So these are now 3 books that I highly recommend, and I know I already said this, but I am just so freaking excited for all of these movie adaptations. That is all for this reading vlog. Thank you guys for joining me while I read some books that are being turned into movies. Let me know if you have read any of these books yourself, what you thought of them, if you're excited for the movie, or let me know in the comments what is a book to movie adaptation you are looking forward to in 2026. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video and joining me for this reading vlog, and I will see you guys in the next one.